All right, so this is gonna be episode 11 of deck profiles for the Brilliant Stars to Prismatic Evolutions format. Um, and this one is gonna be about the ancient archetype and about particularly the deck that I'm gonna cover for this video, which is Raging Bolt. Right. So um, before I even get into the content for this video, um, just want to kind of give a sort of brief rundown of sort of my take on the last, you know, pretty much been a year now since Temporal Forces come out. So this kind of era of Scarlet and Violet, right, where we're seeing more introductions to more additions rather to ancients and future and stuff like that, right? And the introduction of ace spec cards and more additions to that too, right? So with the introduction of ace specs and more ancient and future Pokemon, also came with it rotation, right? And so as a result, people were putting away VMAX decks such as Urshifu VMAX and Mew VMAX, and were transitioning to main in um, Scarlet and Violet decks, right? And so we saw a lot of people make a lot of innovations to bring an event so that they could bring decks to regionals, right? So we saw a lot of um, Raging Bull archetypes, saw a lot of Chien-Pao archetypes, a lot of Lugia archetypes, Charizard archetypes, etc. Right? And I'm talking about like Twilight Masquerade, right? Um, and this didn't really phase me. Um, I didn't really catch on to this hype of playing. Oh, I'm gonna start playing Raging Bull now because people are playing Raging Bull. Stuck to my guns. Around Twilight Masquerade, I was still pretty much playing like Chien-Pao and Gardevoir, so that's pretty much what I was playing, and Tinglu too. So that's pretty much what I was playing. So yeah, didn't really graft onto the hype too much, right? And so yeah, right. Um, so we saw Raging Bull become very popular, and yeah, it's created this what they called a rock paper scissors format, right? This term that gets thrown around sometimes, right? Where three decks basically beat each other, right, in a rock paper scissors style way, and pretty much creates what they call a rock paper scissors format, right? So when Raging Bolts kind of became the premier ancient deck to play, um, it created a rock paper scissors format in this sphere of the TCG community where you know players who were frequent in regionals would either be playing Raging Bolt, Lugia, or Charizard. Right? And the rock paper scissors was that Raging Bolt beats Charizard, Charizard beats Lugia, and then Lugia beats Raging Bolt. I think that was what it was, right? Not important though. Point of the matter is that this didn't really um help with understanding what happened with Raging Bolt um becoming so popular. All it really did was just do exactly what was described, right? Create a situation where if you're not playing one of these three decks, you're probably not going to do well, right? And so, yeah, this video is going to try to alleviate that a little bit, to try to shed some light on Ancient and Enraging Bulls in particular, right? So, yeah, rant aside, just going to, or that wasn't really a rant, that was more like a history lesson. But, yeah, history lesson aside, I'm just gonna get into sort of explaining kind of what ancient does. All right. So my last deck profile video, I covered the future archetype and showcase a list that I refined for prismatic evolutions, and I basically described, and basically, explained that future is a form of checkmate style decks, right? Which is a form of control where you set up a board state where you can't lose and your opponent can't win, right? And so, yeah, I feel like that was very um, good information about that archetype, since the archetype is largely not seen any play, right? Ancient, however, has seen a lot of play, and yeah, I feel like it's going to be better understood, sort of, um, kind of what Ancient and Future's role are in the format after this video, right? So, in contrast to a Future, right, not to just put Ancient in isolation, right? Future is control, right, since it's checkmate style. And so, what would you think would Ancient be, right? Right. Just give me a minute to think about that. Um, yeah. So if future is control, then what is the opposite of control, right? The opposite of control is combo, right? So you can deduce that if future is control, then ancient is combo, right? And that's exactly what ancient is, right? So you can just take a look at you know, the main ancient archetypes, right, or the meta ancient archetypes, and you can quickly deduce based on how they're built and how they've been played that they're combo decks, right? So like the premier ancient one, Rohan X, right? Generally this deck is played around four Sada's Vitality, and then like different configurations of Dark Patch or Energy Switch, and then yeah, right. You kind of just go from there, right? So dark patch decks that have been pretty historically relevant are like decks like Darker Ice decks, right? And those decks are known as turbo decks, which is just basically a fast form of combo, right? That's centered around basics or stage ones. So you can deduce that dark patch decks are combo, and therefore Roaring Moon is combo, right? You got like Gouge and Fire, right? So in this format, you'd be playing Gouge and Fire with like Professor Sada's Vitality again, and then Magma Basin, right? And then you'd have to get three energies into the discard pile, or well, three if you want to put two Sadas Pokemon with Sadas, right? And then you'd use Magma Basin to get the second one, and then you use Attachment to return, right? So that would be again combo, right? And then if you've watched my VGC introduction video, um, you heard me cover kind of how combo works in the Pokemon core game and how it's a form of setup combo where you set up so that you can devastate your opponent, right? And so you take a deck like Koraidon, which was like the main way that people were playing Ancient Box when this card came out. Um, and you can see that its attack increases in damage for ancient Pokemon in play, right? So, that would be set up probably in a combo style, right? So, and now we're playing, Ancient Box with Roaring Moon as a core, right? So, you know, you can quickly come to the conclusion that Ancient Box or Ancient Decks rather are forms of control. I mean combo, right? So yeah. Um so yeah, that's the kind of proof that ancient Pokemon are a form of combo decks, right? So that's to be understood moving forward, right? So yeah, and it's not that I didn't, understand that initially, looking at Raging Bolt, because you look at Raging Bolt and you're like, okay, this has to be played turbo if it's gonna work, and turbo's combo. So you can just come to the conclusion quickly that Raging Bolt is a form of combo, right? But that doesn't apply to every single ancient Pokemon. So no, you can't just run to the conclusion that Ancient Box is combo just because you figured out that you're gonna set up Raging Bolt in a combo side, right? Take a card like Screamtail, right, where it prevents your opponent from playing supporter cards, right? And you'd be like, this card's not combo, right? Second attack, this card's an energy, right? This card's not combo, right? Flutter Mane, its ability lock, that's not combo, right? And so, and then Brute Bonnet, right? Something like Brute Bonnet, which poisons your opponent, right? So yeah, you can you can't just jump to the conclusion, right, that ancient is combo, right? It definitely needs a lot of, testing and a lot of analysis, right? So yeah, right. Um, I didn't want to cover Raging Bolt um too hastily just because uh it's basically um the type of deck where it's if it's played too much a certain way, um because of the players playing the deck, um its style appears to change basically, right? So yeah, I feel like I've covered this format sufficiently, so I want to get into Raging Pulse, right? So you know, um, that's ancient, and so Raging Bolt, um, in contrast to other ancient Pokemon that came out before it, such as Roaring Moon, right? Feels like it's a more complicated form of ancient decks, right? Since ancient seems so simple, when it came out, right? And this is because that's why how it's designed to be. It's designed to be a complicated card, right? You're supposed to be able to plan in turns ahead, and you're supposed to be, mapping out your prize map while you're setting up, and letting your opponent play a game, right? Because that's how you play combo, right? And a lot of that was not really happening when people were playing Region Bolts when it was at the peak of its popularity. Basically it was just a horror show of people flipping coins with Pokemon Catcher and trying to cheese out a 2-2-2 prize map, basically. So that's why, um, Raging Bolt is just so shrouded in mystery, right? How did this card just suddenly become so popular? Even though when it was printed in Temporal Forces, it got little to no play, right? So yeah, um, all that aside, let's kind of look at Raging Bolt on the more bright side, right? Raging Bolt is a meta deck. It's designed to be, uh, it's designed to take a meta share ultimately, right? You can put it in the category of decks such as Charizard EX, Gardevoir EX, Lugia V Star, etc. Right? Um, so it's just that with a card so hard to set up, right? Where you have to continue to set up your attack throughout the whole game. Of course, this deck is not going to catch on as easily as something like Charizard, where you can just set up a Charizard and just win with one Charizard, right? If your opponent's not good at the game, right? So that's kind of what put it in the category of rogue when it came out, basically, and people kind of thought that it was going to be relegated to that category. Um, but then we got the introduction of Ogerpon EX, Tail Mask Ogerpon EX, and it's also it's associated uh um for how they call these not teal masks the associated masks that go with Ogerpon, right? So you got Cornerstone, Earth Flame, and Wellspring, right? And Ogerpon EX um basically is another card that's also pretty much shrouded in mystery just because of how uh little analysis the card has gotten, right? So with the introduction of this card, we basically got um Scarlet and Violet's um Zoroark GX, right? Where, it's clearly a meta card, right? It's designed to take up meta share, right? Obviously not as a main attacker because this card is not uh designed to be a main attacker, right? Um but it's um our meta draw engine, basically, right? And again, right, this is a pretty complicated era of Pokemon, Scarlet and Violet era, especially being stacked on top of Sword and Shield, which is also a pretty complicated era. Um, so yeah, it's pretty hard to discern that Ogerpon is designed to be a meta Pokemon in general, let alone like a meta you know draw engine, which is what it is, right? Um, but yeah, you can kind of with the way that we're seeing the direction of Scarlet and Violet go, we can tell that this is a meta draw engine, just because Scarlet and Violet has shown to be an era of Pokemon where it's not uncommon to be playing multiple types of energies in your deck, multiple types of basic energy, right? So this is just their way of designing a meta draw engine that plays into that theme, basically. So that's the best way to understand what TMS Overprime EX is, right? So as a result, right, when Raging Bolt and Ogerpon came together, right, it seemed like Raging Bolt Ogerpon was a cheese deck, right? And it's not. Raging Bolt Ogerpon is a meta deck, right? And it's designed to be played theoretically with Raging Bolt, right? Raging Ogerpon, TMS Ogerpon is theoretically designed to be played with Raging Bolt, and the deck concept works, right? It's not a concept like, for example, just throwing Iron Hands into a deck, adding a lightning energy, and then trying to combo Ampu very much in one turn, right? Where that concept doesn't apply to other archetypes, right? You can put Ogerpon EX into other archetypes that can play around its ability, and it can function just as well as Raging Bolt EX. So the deck works. It's not cheese, and it's just that again, something that I've been preaching for uh since time immemorial, right? Is that these formats don't get tested, right? So yeah, that's kind of my contribution to sort of understanding Raging Bolt and Teal Mask Overpine's role in this format. And so yeah, um hope that's understood, and I hope that a lot of people can get value from this explanation, and be able to apply these um kind of explanations to other archetypes so that they're better understood, right? So yeah, um gonna get into this um variation of Raging Bolt and sort of explain why, again, like I've said, it's not cheese, and sort of why it seems so devastating of a deck, and so yet so eloquently simple. So Raging Bolt, you know, 240 HP Dragon Pokemon, 3 retreat cost, right? And it has the first attack Burst Roar, discard your hand and draw 6 cards. Then its second attack, Bellow and Thunder, 70x. You may discard any amount of basic energy from your Pokemon. This attack does 70 damage for each card you discarded in this way, right? So, that concept, of cards having like infinite damage, right? So, this card's no different, right? Um, Kind of want to give this card a lot more explanation, but I think I'm gonna leave that for another video. Um, and so yeah, just understand that this card has infinite damage, and infinite damage is not archetype in and of itself. It's just a form of damage, basically, right? Just so that your archetype can have a way to deal devastating damage, basically, right? Just so happens that this is a meta card and it also does infinite damage, right? So that's a best of both worlds, right? And so yeah, uh, that's Rage and Bolt, right? Um, so yeah, this card can do a lot of things basically, right? Um, so that's the core of the deck. Your goal is going to attack with this card, anytime that you want to attack, and you want to be using Bellow Thunder, obviously, right? So play 4 copies. The reason why you want to play 4 copies rather than wanting to play three, or for some reason if you want to play two, I don't really know why would you want to play two, is because of its synergy with the supporter card. The ancient supporter card, Professor Sada's Vitality. Choose up to 2 of your ancient Pokemon and attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to each of them. You discard. If you attach any energy in this way, draw 3 cards. All right, so this card specifies that you can choose up to 2 ancient Pokemon. So for odds, you want to be playing as many ancient Pokemon as possible. And since Raging Bolt is the main attacker of this deck and the only attacker that you only want it to be attacking with, you just play max copies, right? So you can get down to as quickly as possible, right? Because again, with combo decks, right? Combo decks are designed to be odds based, right? And so the better you can make your odds, the better the deck will play, the better the deck will feel, and the better the deck will win, right? So yeah, you want to play 4 copies, right? Yeah, and so then you got the other piece of the deck, which is Teal Mask Ogerpon EX, 210 HP grass Pokemon, has the ability Teal Dance. Once during your turn, you attach a basic grass energy card from your hand to this Pokemon. You attach energy to a Pokemon this way, draw a card. Right. So then it has the attack Mirrored Leaf Shower for 3 grass energy. It's 30 plus. This attack does 30 more damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. Right. So generally this card is going to be used for its ability. It's a way to get energy into play without having to manually attach or use Sawdust, Professor Sawdust. And so the card is very invaluable in this deck, right? Play 3 copies, right? You don't want to play 4 copies because this card is not very important to hit in the early game. You want to be getting energy in the discard pile, and you want to be getting Raging Bolt in the active, and then after that, you want to be having these TLMS Ogerpons down, right? And you're only going to want a maximum of 2. So, um, yeah, there's no reason that you're going to need to be playing uh, 4 copies because it's just never going to be crucial to have uh, three, uh, 3 or even 4 Ogerpons down, right? So you're only going to want a maximum of 2. So you play 3 so you can just hit them better, right? For the odds, right? So yeah, that's the core of the deck. Honestly, if you really wanted to, you could probably just play this deck with Raging Bolt and Ogerpon. But again, right, you're not playing solitaire, you're playing Pokemon, and so you have to consider other things that may be competed with you, right? So yeah, that's the core of the deck, right? And then you have other pieces that you need, um, to set up the whole board, right? So play one Squawk ability EX, right? So this card has the ability Squawk and Seize. Once you're in your first turn, you may discard your hand, discard draw 6 cards. You can't use more than one Squawk Seize ability per turn, right? So this deck is very simple, very eloquently simple, and so um, because of that, it also doesn't have a lot of devastating draw power, right? And so you're gonna want to be playing a card like Squawk Ability EX so that you can out yourself on your first turn, so you can play the game, right? Because it's a combo deck, you got to set up, right? And so yeah, then you play one copy Pheasant EX, has the ability to flip the script once you're in your turn, and your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. You draw 3 cards. You can't use more than one flip the script ability each turn. So um this card um basically is just to play against checkmate style decks. Um so basically checkmates some checkmate um variations play win conditions that require your opponents to put your hand down to a very low hand size. And so this card is basically to prevent that situation, right? And a lot of decks can just do that even without playing a checkmate archetype through the card Iono, right? And so this card is just a contingency against Iono in this deck, basically. You don't have to play it. A lot of decks don't really even play Iono um, too often. So this card's kind of just it's just a slot in the deck. You can take it out and replace it with anything. So yeah, don't get too obsessed over this card in this deck. Don't try to get it down too early. It's not that important. It's just a way so you don't get checkmated, basically. Checkmated by Iona. Um, yeah. So the next card you play is Rooting Greninja, right? Has the ability to conceal cards. You must discard an energy card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once you're in turn, you may draw 2 cards, right? So this deck functions off of Sada, and so you want to put energies into your discard pile, and so you play Radiant Greninja, right? If you're not getting, you know, pieces into your discard pile pretty smoothly, yeah, you just play Radiant Greninja, right? And the last card is Slitherwing. It's ancient Pokemon, has the attack Iron Smasher, 20 plus. If your opponent has any future Pokemon in play, this attack does 20 more damage. Right? So, we're seeing cards like Iron Bundle gain popularity. And, this card is a way to, pretty much control your opponent's bench from aggressively benching future Pokemon like Iron Bundle or, what this card is designed to knock out, which is, Iron Heads, right? So that's the reason why you play this card in this deck. And its attack is pretty effective, right? So Smashing Wing, other attack, right? 130 damage. That's pretty good math, for like Radiant Greninja and Pheasant Deputy. If it hits for weakness, knocks it out, right? So this is a pretty good one prize option that you can have in the deck, right? And it's also an ancient Pokemon, so you can use it to put energies on with Sadas, and you don't have to charge up 2 Raging Bolts and lock yourself into a basically checkmate yourself, basically, right? By setting up Raging Bolts and not wanting to attack with them, right? So it just gives you that option, right? So again, right, this deck is very simple. So you don't need to, you know, uh, have all these, extravagant cards like MUEX and stuff like that. You just want to get to the Raging Bolt momentum and take it from there, basically. Right. So that's all you're gonna need. Right. And then for the trainer cards, uh, again, core of this deck, Professor Sada's Vitality. Um, so you gotta play 4 copies because you just want to hit them, right? Then play Palpad, right? So that if you have to discard a Sadas with like Squawk and Seas or something like that, you can get your Sadas back, right? And especially in a format like this one, where there's a lot of single price Pokemon that are pretty devastating, like Badoo, Dracloak, uh, Curlia, etc. Having to attack into them means that you're gonna need probably more Sadas than just 4. So Palpad enables that. Then you play 3 Iono. Um, so yeah, again, this deck doesn't really have a lot of draw power, and so if you're just set up and you're just attacking into like again like Curlias or Dracloaks, this card's pretty good to disrupt your opponent's hand, so that they can't just set up a big hand size and just combo you to death, right? Yeah. So you play 3 copies so you can hit them. And then you play 2 bosses orders, right? Um, again, this deck is a combo deck, so you want, and this deck also centers around using supporters to combo, and so you're not going to need multiple copies of this card, despite this card being pretty invaluable in this deck because since you're going to hit any number, having multiple copies of this deck card in this deck is pretty invaluable. But again, since you're comboing with a supporter card, you don't want to be clogging your deck up with a lot of copies of this card, right? So you play 2 so you can hit them and you don't prize them, right? And you know when you're not playing boss orders, your spec for this deck is Prime Catcher, right? So Prime Catcher says switch in one of your opponent's base bench Pokemon to the active spot. You do switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. So if you've been playing, for a while, since like Sun and Moon, right? You're familiar with, this card, Guzma. Guzma basically reads and does the same thing, except it's a supporter. Um, so, it's basically Guzma on an item card. So that's pretty good, right? Especially when you're comboing with a supporter card, right? So you can't play Boss's Orders if you've played Professor Sada's Vitality, right? So this card's pretty invaluable in this deck. Plus, this deck also just requires you to get your Raging Bolton active. And so if you can have a card that gets your Raging Bolton active and also has the ability for you to take key knockouts, that's the best of both worlds, right? So I feel like this card's pretty invaluable in this deck. Then for your search cards, like for Ultra Ball or Nest Ball, again, this is a combo deck. So and it's a very bare bones combo deck. So you just want to play max copies of your combo pieces, so you have better odds, right? And then you play 4 Earthen Vessel. So as you can use this card only if you discard another card from your hand. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards. Reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So yeah, you discard a card from your hand, you get 2 basic energy cards, right? And that's how you're gonna combo with Greninja. It's gonna combo with Ultra Ball. It's gonna combo with Ogerpon, right? And it's your manual attacker for the turn 2, right? So you can do a lot of things with Earthen Vessel in this deck, right? Then last piece of the combo is energy retrieval. So play 4 copies. Card reads put up to 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. So you don't have to put 2. It says place up to, but generally you're going to be putting 2, right? You're going to be putting probably a grass energy and then an energy that you discarded for your Raging Bolt's attack, right? Play 4 copies because again, um, combo piece, and you don't want to be low on combo pieces, especially in a format where you're not going to have a very graceful prize map, right? Um, so yeah, that's the general combo pieces that you're going to be playing for the deck, and then for my list for Reasonable Ogerpon, I play 3 deduction kit. Card reads: look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put them back into your put them back in any order, or shuffle them and put them in the bottom of your deck. Right. So yeah. So at the height of Reasonable popularity, people were playing like 3 or 4 trekking shoes. Um, which reads look at the top card of your deck. You may put that card into your hand. If you don't, discard it and draw a card. Right. So effectively is like a deck thinning card, um, but it's just generally a odds based card that basically fixes your odds, so your odds are better, right? And they, you'll generally be playing these cards in like combo decks, right? Or if you have some sort of, you know, out there, checkmate combo that you're trying to set up quickly, you can play that too, right? But generally, that's not what the card's designed for. It's generally designed for combo decks so that you can have better odds to hit your combo, right? So yeah, at the height of original popularity, people were playing 3 or 4 checker shoes, and with checker shoes soon to rotate, there isn't really a point in you know riding this card out before it becomes antiquity, right? Um, so it's just better to integrate more fresh cards to prepare yourself for you know upcoming archetype. I mean, upcoming formats, right? Because that's a lot. This is the last format that Checker Shoes is even going to be illegal. So yeah, right. So and also, when I wanted to make in this video, that deduction kit is arguably a better combo piece than Trekking Shoes, since deduction kit lets you see more cards, right? So you play Trekking Shoes, right, and you see your top card of your deck, and then you see potentially the next card underneath it, right? Whereas deduction kit, you can see the top 3 cards of your deck, and then arguably you could see the next card as well, right? That's kind of the point of playing deduction card in this deck, right? So instead of seeing 2 cards, you can see up to 4 cards potentially, right? So the idea is that you play deduction kit, right? And if you get a piece, then you put it in the top of your deck, and then you use teal mask to or teal dance rather to draw into it, right? Or you can see the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you don't see a piece you like, put them in the bottom of your deck, and then you can see your top deck after that, right? With Teal Dance. So the point of this card in this deck is it's just a um better odds based card than Trek and Choose, and so therefore it synergizes better with Ogerpon, basically, right? So that's why I play Deduction Kill over Trek and Choose, and also just because Trek and Choose is about to rotate, so it's just stupid to play anyways, right? So I play 3 copies. Then I play 3 copies of Pokegear 3.0. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal a support card you find there and put it into your hand. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Right. So this card again, another combo piece, odds based combo piece to increase your odds of having a Sada's Vitality to use on your turn, right? Or for a Sada's Vitality that you use on your next turn, or if you're planning, a few turns ahead, right? Play 3 copies, right? Then you play 2 copies of Switch, right? So again, a combo piece. Um, you don't want to be using like Teal Dance and then using the grass energy that you attach to retreat, since energies attachments are pretty invaluable in this deck. So switches just allows you to enable a more devastating turn, right? And it's just something that you're not going to be playing too often. So you just keep them to a minimum. You're probably gonna play it maybe once in a game. So you play two, so you have one, and then you can use one for fodder or if it gets prized, right? Then the last piece is Night Stretcher, right? Play two copies, put a Pokemon or basic energy card from your discard pile into your hand. All right, so your games are not always gonna go as planned, and so you don't want to think that your games are just always gonna go as planned and not play Night Stretcher, um, because that would just be folly. So Night Stretcher is a contingency to prevent your games from going astray and not having pieces to close the game out. So yeah, that's the trainer count. Pretty thick trainer count, and yeah, you can just configure the trainer cards as you wish, but just keep in mind that you want to keep to the core of having high counts of your combo pieces, right? And probably just want to play Prime Catcher as well. Right? So yeah, that's the trainer count. And for the energies, pretty straightforward. You play six grass, play three fighting, you play three lightning, right? So you just want to have a lot of grass energy, so you don't have to use your pieces to have to get them back, and so you can open them, right? So you can combo with Ogerpon more smoothly, right? And you play three copies again because you just want to have them um, not get prized, right? So you're generally only going to be probably attaching one of each. So, or if you're going to want to attach two, you have two, and then the last one is one, extra in your deck, or just one to get prized, right? But generally, you're only going to need two. So three is just for odds, basically. So that's my Raging Bull Ogerpon list, right? Again, Raging Bull Ogerpon isn't a cheese deck, but it was definitely being played as a cheese deck when it was at the height of its popularity. So that's kind of why it appeared that way. But the deck's not cheese. It's just a variation of playing Ogerpon as a draw engine, and the concept applies to many other decks that can play energies, right? So for example, Hydrapple, right? You can play with Ogerpon, and yeah, right. So yeah, that's my take on Raging Bolt. Um, Hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for listening. And see you in the next video.